Hello there. Um, I'm doing another lore stream. This is more like miscellaneous Edge of Fate lore that I haven't had a chance to look at yet. Mainly looking at As Without, the Kepler armor sets, and then a bunch of the weapons and armor pieces that I haven't looked at yet. And I'm going to be reading these in Ishtar Collective, so shout out to ishtarcollective.net. They're very useful for reading the lore. And then once I read everything that's on Ishtar that I haven't looked at yet, I'm just going to scrounge collections real quick in game to make sure that there isn't anything encrypted that I've missed. So that's the plan for the stream. And let's dive right into the lore. So this is the book As Without. You get these lore entries from uh, the data pads in Portal. Um, I think you get them progressively based on the number of data pads you've collected. Um, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I don't have the last entry in game, which is why I'm reading it on Ishtar because, of course, I did not get the second data pad from Encore before they disabled Encore because people were Encore farming. So that's why we're reading it on Ishtar. Um, so I've no idea what this book is about. Distortions, fissures, treacherous contacts, and decompiled. So I'm going to open each of them in a new tab and read it. Distortions. The hidden embrace their conatus in analyzing the nature of the chronospatial distortions on Earth. They cross-reference samples, interview witnesses, and create elaborate computational models. I will leave them to it. The question that interests me is not how, but why. My inquiry must begin with the taken. Chronospatial distortions are, by nature, harbingers of unintended consequences. I must know whether destroying the echo of navigation unleashed a latent power within the taken, or whether these distortions arise from another influence. I have been observing newly independent taken near Europa's Golden Age ruins. They appear in causally independent patterns rather than their telltale clusters. They traverse to and from the ascendant plane at seemingly random intervals. Nothing in their behavior suggests a linkage to the time distortions we've seen elsewhere, save for one thing. Hidden agents report a curious finding on Europa. Vex are luring stray taken into fortified areas for capture. As an entomologist might trap insects. The behavior is consistent with an empirical sampling effort rather than the usual territorial squabbles. My investigative efforts on Europa have yielded positive results. I have managed to secure a live Vex Minotaur at the cost of a chipped tooth, much to my irritation. I am eager to test my many hypotheses on a live subject. A mixed result. I was able to download a plurality of data from the captured Minotaur's frame, completing my prime objective. However, my security measures were partially insufficient, allowing the Vex to trigger its self-destructive sequence. The smell of scorched radiolaria still befouls my ship's upholstery. The data downloaded from the captured Minotaur is fascinating. In addition to the standard protocols, it contained a prodigious amount of data that can only be described as irrational. As if it transcribed information from language it could not understand. It's times like these that I miss Bria's expertise. The presence of the irrational data from the captured Minotaur leads me to conclude this Vex frame was not of a collective previously documented on Europa, but rather a member of the Nessian Schism. It seems Maya's research is taking her further afield. The irrational data I recovered from Maya's captured Vex is wreaking havoc on my ship's systems. Its effect on my firewalls indicates that it is not a malware of any known variety, or indeed anything of technological origin. Rather, the incursion seems to be a glitch within my local time-space continuum. I have been able to contain the glitch infecting my ship with a hive spell derived from Haruktha's brood. However, substantial damage has been done. Several key components show signs of advanced decay, enduring years worth of untreated oxidization within minutes. Meanwhile, other components de-aged to factory fresh condition. The damage done to my ship's systems by the time glitch is extensive, but instructive. It further validates a burgeoning hypothesis. The Vex are researching a power beyond paracausality, the ability to manipulate time itself. If so, the Vex are merely fomites, rather than the origins of the disruption. So, this entry appears to be, I believe each of these, like, paragraphs is something that showed up in one of the data pads, and so that would make sense that there's, like, a certain number of data pads, like specific ones that you need to acquire before you get the actual lore entry. I'm like 99% sure that all of this was in the data pads in game. But it's kind of interesting. It's also looking at the Nessian Schism, which is the Conductor's Vex, and their tinkering with time. This isn't really like a new thing for the Vex because they were working on that in the Vault of Glass back in Destiny 1. So, I don't know, it doesn't seem that exciting to me, and this like burgeoning hypothesis is like we already knew that the Vex were interested in like manipulating time and the laws of physics. So all we're really confirming here is that they're working on that again at Maya's direction, which is kind of about the raid lore and Maya's whole plan to utilize the Nine to basically recreate her personal golden age. And I'm not 100% sure who the speaker is here. They did mention Bria, who is, I think that's Eris Morn's ghost. I'm just going to double check that really quick. Yes. Yeah, it is Eris Morn's ghost. So I think this whole entry is Eris talking about looking into the time and space distortions that are related to the Nine and the Vex. And then she's also looking at Taken, which makes sense. It makes sense that she'd be investigating what the impact on the Echo of Navigation's destruction had on the Taken. And then she's also part of the Hidden, so she's like tapped into the Hidden's like spy network, and they're talking about Vex. So not super surprising. So we'll move on to the next one. Drifter's Locks. perpetually concealed behind that greasy headband, have gone a sterling gray. The aging of light bearers has been the subject of much pontification within the cryptarchy, even more so regarding former light bearers like myself. But this is the first case of spontaneous aging in the known record. Leave it to Drifter. I am now confident in concluding that the Vex are merely a vector for the time distortions we've witnessed. My sapient intuition is that the cause will be found beyond the meager confines of our 3 dimensions. Tangentially, my ship's internal clock now counts using a ternary system, rendering it all but useless. Not wanting to risk another acute thermal event aboard my ship, I chose instead to garner assistance from a Vex expert. Upon my arrival on Nessus, it was not Osiris who answered my call, but Failsafe. Apparently, she recognized my ship's identification and immediately sent an invitation for tea. It will be a while before Failsafe finishes her analysis of captured Vex remnants. She has generously provided a list of non-poisonous local plant life and their locations. I hope to pioneer a new blend of Nessian tea while I wait. Failsafe has finished her work. The most notable result was not digital, but physical in nature. Carbon dating confirms that multiple components of the Vex frame are different ages, though they were manufactured at the same time. It seems this Vex suffered similar temporal distortions to those that ravaged my ship and Drifter. My custom blend of Nessian tea is palatable, and liberal use brings on a pleasant numbness around the lips, tongue, and nose. I think Drifter will be delighted by such a culinary oddity. I have vacuum sealed a generous quantity for our reunion. Dedicated observation of the Nessian schism leads me to believe that Maya's control over the Echo of Command has begun to dwindle. I witnessed several groups of Vex roaming in loose bands, seemingly without patrol routes. I saw one goblin sit on the ground and watch an insect with childlike interest for some time. I discovered a group of coral Vex frames, devoid of life, warped and twisted, driven into the ground like corpse daffodils in early spring. They were drained of radiolaria, perhaps in a punitive measure. If the conductor is forced to mete out such draconian punishment, then her hold over the collective must be truly imperiled. The Neomunians have reported a theft of Golden Age data similar to the incursions documented by hidden agents throughout the inner system. Though a Byzantine system of cutouts made it impossible to pinpoint the source, the modus operandi points to Maya Sundaresh and the Coral Vex. Maya's system-wide pursuit of Golden Age technology, while effective on its face, belies an underlying desperation. It calls to mind a scientist frantically changing the conditions of their experiment to elicit hypothesized results. Whatever stratagem Maya used to overextend herself, whatever Faustian bargain she made, has clearly left her weakened. Failsafe's final scans on the Minotaur remains show microclustering of unknown subatomic particles in conjunction with trace exposure to kappa-alpha iron emission. She stated that while the material was too lossy for reconstruction, even after p-hacking the data, we can deduce the subject was exposed to large quantities of dark matter. After much cajoling, Drifter agreed to assist in surveying dark matter emissions within the system. None that I visited coincided with the presence of Maya Sundaresh or her collective. The final set of coordinates led off into empty space. The dark matter emissions at the outer edges of the system seem to move in a path, a trail, a ribbon of energy. I have alerted Ikora, who agrees this warrants future inquiry. She is currently, and I'm not sure non coincidentally, investigating similar radiation in the trans-Neptunian belt. I have followed this, and then there's a bunch of binary bytes, error, ribbon of energy, signature keys to the time dilation surrounding, but to no avail. Lead you toward space. So I'm gonna pull up a binary to text converter to see if these actually mean anything. Because they look like strings of like text that could be converted into ASCII. Oh, this is 3. So that makes sense. This is also 3. I have followed this 3 ribbon of energy, 3 signature keys to the time dilation surrounding. I think this also is 3. Yep. But to no avail, lead you toward 3 space. Yeah, so all of this is binary for 3, which is the member of the 9 who died. So this also seems to be Eris Morn because she's talking about her ship. She's looking into Nessian Schism Vex and following up with Failsafe. And we also learned that the 3 trying to force Maya trying to force 3 to do something impossible with the Echo of Command, which we saw in the raid lore, basically like killed Taekwal, who was what the Echo of Command's memory was of. So it seems like she kind of broke the Echo by trying to force it to do something that was impossible, which seems to have made her weakened, and she's losing control over the Vex. And the Vex she's losing control over are gaining identities like Sharp Cheddar from the side quests, or this goblin that's like watching an insect like a child. So kind of interesting. Also not a ton of new information, but we can move on. Cormorant level encrypted message follows. Naturally, the Praxic Order is concerned with the proliferation of reality-altering technology. But the Order's mandate is not the protection of the city, or even humanity. It's to combat the agents of darkness. Until the Vex fall within those parameters, the Order respectfully declines. Sorry, Ikora, I tried. Cormorant level encrypted message follows. Normally I wouldn't get out of bed to track Cabal activity, but the Hidden are reporting a new sect of work on Mars. Their livery and weapons are fresh, and they're doing brisk trade with the local gangs. Not within our purview, I know, but it bears watching. Cormorant level encrypted message follows. According to Omar St. Croix, this new faction of Cabal are big players in the Martian arms trade. They have guns and armor for sale beyond their usual refurbished Red Legion junk. Someone out there with real manufacturing clout is behind them. To what end, I'm not sure yet. I know the Martian cabal isn't a sanctioned target, but mark my words, it's only a matter of time. Nobody stockpiles this much gear without hedging against Guardian interference. They'll want paracausal weapons sooner or later, and by the time we see them in the field, it'll be too late. I told you it was only a matter of time before this new Cabal faction went after paracausal weapons, and here we are. A hit squad wearing their livery mugged Zur in the winding cove, cased him until the Guardians left, then gave him the old Dark Age stick up. Here's the inventory of everything stolen from Zur. 1 bad juju, 1 malfeasance, 1 ruinous effigy, 1 flight records. Left all the strange coins, glimmer, and standard gear. Clearly knew what they were after. This won't be their last attempt to secure advanced weaponry. After reviewing the Zur case file, something sticks out: the flight data. They didn't just want the weapons, they wanted to know where he got them. They wanted his contacts. Looking back, that might have been the real target all along. Looks like I was right about the flight records being the real target of Zur's stick-up. Intercepted comms from an unidentified Cabal ship included references Zur's Dominion and Eternity. The message repeats 9 times. Somebody is trying to make contact. I think the Renegade Cabal are making headway. Our undercovers on Mars report their lieutenants out trading for samples of periodic elements, most of them benign. Tungsten, iodine, ytterbium, neodymium, the list goes on. And not in quantities useful for manufacturing either. Something's up. I put out feelers with the fallen mob in Tharsis. Rumor is the Cabal have their Scion engineers building a cipher device, using periodic elements as its key. Not the words for the elements, but the elements themselves. They have to be getting outside help. And I mean way outside. The hidden listening post on Mars reports a spike in local comms traffic. Whatever the Cabal were hoping to gain from Zur's flight records and their elemental cipher, it seems to have worked. We still don't know who's backing the Martian faction, but they've got big plans. Our agents have been making indirect inquiries to the other gains in Tharsis. Word is the Cabal are looking for the Drifter, and more specifically the Derelict. I get the feeling Drifter's stepped in something rancid, and he's about to track it all over our carpet. Where is that scumbag? So, I don't know if this is Ikora or who the agent, or not Ikora, if this is still Eris. It seems like the person who's sending these messages to Ikora probably isn't also Eris. It could be Honor, given the Praxic Order stuff and the whole, like, hating Drifter stuff, thinking he's a scumbag. But it's kind of hard to tell. And but this lore entry basically seems to be set up for renegades, because it literally says renegades. The Renegade Cabal. So it seems like renegades is going to be, whether we wanted it or not, we've stepped into a war with the Cabal on Mars. And the whole, like, timeline entry describing renegades was talking about a dredgen showing up. So they're stealing weapons of sorrow related to Gambit. So it seems to be like a dredgen who's like bankrolling a Cabal arms dealer. So yet another expansion, yet another war with the Cabal on Mars. probably what the evil empire is going to be. Some rogue cabal faction or some new cabal empire that doesn't follow Empress Keitel. But they're stealing nine stuff, which makes sense. They're probably like the story is probably connected to the Edge of Fate and the whole thing about the nine because the saga is going to be about binding the nine. So they've robbed Zer. They're looking for Drifter. This all just screams like Renegade setup to me. Decompiled. Let's see what this says. So this says blue. Blue. She understood me in a way he never could. Having to make it alone after Brya. She was vibrant, tough, a real badass, breathing life into his lifeless existence. And now she's gone, and he's not far behind. So this is the same string of text. It also says blue. He's shirking again, heading for the edge of the system, like there's something out there. It's pathetic. Old as Sequoia and still running away from home like a little kid. What a waste. In a strange way, I sympathize. If I could leave this gutless creep behind, I'd already be gone. This is also saying blue. Something told me to compile. Intuition, maybe. My first time in years. I was surprised how heavy my shell felt. He never saw me, but I was watching as something passed over the ship. Or maybe we passed through it. And for a few minutes I felt fresh, bright, hopeful. Like in the beginning. Before him. This also says blue. He's gray now. Aged decades and seconds. Hasn't said a word about it. But it's not like I want to hear his crap anyway. I wonder if the anomaly aged me too. Is my core all roomy and dim now like an old lady's eyeball? Not that it matters. Old or young, eternity is just as long. Blue. I try not to think about how much I gave up for him. My voice. My agency. Not for myself, but for him too. So both of us could survive. If only I'd known. And she's back, just like that, even without a ghost. Funny how death works. Finally, a little gleam of justice. If anyone deserved it, it's her. He looks happy, maybe even thinks he is, but I know him better than that. He's just relieved she saved him from himself again. This business in the Orc Cloud. He's playing with forces he can't hope to understand. Like a kid waving a stick of dynamite. If he thinks he can get through this without me, he's fooling himself. His specialty. I'm guessing that this is Drifter's ghost. Because it's like talking about how heavy the shell is and like being on the derelict, losing their voice, their agency. Drifter's done some weird messed up stuff with his ghost. So I think this is Drifter's ghost perspective on Eris's death, on Drifter's actions after Eris's death, Drifter aging from approaching the singularity and dropping the hall, and Eris returning from the dead. So his ghost seems to be very, very jaded and very like upset with Drifter, which kind of makes sense given that Drifter kind of hates his ghost. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the Aeon adapter suit. A devil or king may still call herself Elixni. In exile, I am fallen. Azerix unwintered. Listen, you awful hatchling dregs, you whining scraps of flesh. We are exile, weak, argumentative, disrespectful wastes of ether. That's what my captain said at my final docking, and she was right. Still we live. Still we have drag strength. We are cunning little thieves with cunning little knives. Yes? Even here on this wretched moon, we scrape enough ether to keep ourselves going. Enough to grow, never. Enough to live, we have. What do you think the houses will do when we descend from Luna to the blue land below and say, Velasque, it's been a while. We're here to join the effort. Will they give us cloaks and banners in soft new dusk purple? Will they revoke our exile? You're young. Listen to Azerix. Look at his scars. 4 molts I've been through since Venus. The carapace remembers. If your captain likes you, she docks you with a knife. Clean and fast. At the joint. Mine used her hands. Go down to the barons with 4 arms open, asking for a share of ether? No, no. Lavask brought me to exile when I thought I would die. He showed me a way to live without Archon or Kel to dictate my growth, my life. Lavask, my friend, took his wrist blade and finished my docking. He trimmed away the shreds of muscle and shell where they met my body, as I flinched and wept under his hands. And so my arms would grow back straight. Look at me now, exile's hatchlings, weak and contrary and alive, breathing still. If Lavask says go, Azerix follows. So this is Azerix, an exile from House Winter. It appears on Venus, who used to be a drag. Not sure if they're still a drag, but Lavask kind of took a liking to and mentored them. So let's look at the next one and see if it's a continuation of this. Looks like it is. I sang him a song of the long drift. He did not know the words, but he understood. Azerix unwintered. Lavask, my friend, has brought us to a green world. The green of exile, he says. Our torn capes and chipped paint were prophecy. We are meant to be here. Lavask is gifted with tongues. He can convince anybody of anything, even the humans. He sits on a carpet woven by small human hands and sings to their din about local gravity and chemical reactions. Servitors listen and sing Descendant, calculating ether gain from huge pillows of slime mold. Our new home is warmer and wetter than Luna. The throat doesn't click so dryly against inhaled ether. It's good. It's good, except for the fear of mold growing in rebreather linings. Except for when the wet against my shell makes my lower arms ache with Venus's memory. Reese, the human splicer apprentice, sings another question to me. I settle my shoulders under my cloak and gesture. Apologies? Again? You and your people maintain ancient systems, he repeats. How do you. Here he sings a note I do not understand. He sees my confusion. New and old, scrap, garbage, rusting trash, new metal. Together? We are used to building with scrap, I sing back, and we enter a discussion of material recycling. They are used to scrap patchwork here, too, on Kepler. Light fades from the sky and his splicer master approaches. Kar Nahan, I say politely. She smiles with her mobile, fleshy cheeks. A thorax, she says to me. Her best attempt yet. Reese is lucky. His name is no trouble for either of us to say. The humans are not worried about blows from a stranger's hand. They come up to me, my forearms filled with stolen knives, and all they ask is the composition and tensile strength of the metal. The engine that drives them is not fear or resource hunger, but curiosity. We are trying to learn from them, we poor exiles. But they have their own ways, and it is time for their evening ritual. Carnahan urges Reese up from his seat. We nod to each other, the young splicer apprentice and the aging exile. There will be time to solve the problems of material science later. So this is more about Azerix. I'm not sure if this is Earth. It might be Earth considering they're saying it's green like exiles. It could be Kepler though, because Kepler is kind of green. Oh no, they literally say it's Kepler. I don't know how I didn't pay attention to that. I'm pretty sure it is definitely Kepler. That's a big brain moment for me. But this is like them kind of starting to like connect with the Ionians and trade with them, which is before the exiles and the Ionians started to become enemies. I must have faith in something. Azerix unwintered. No Archon, no Kel, no hand on the docking blade. None of us hungrier for ether than a baron. This is what we said. This is what we believed. If exile has a creed, it is this. We will not be led. But if Lavasque, my friend, tells me that we must have an Archon to make our gift ether, how can I say no? My hatchlings, you thriving scraps of exile, Lavasque saved your lives like he saved mine, brought us far out of range of dusk and the deathless monsters eating the light of the great machine. Life is soft here, so fresh from the mold. A touch would bruise its shell. He says this world is a gift, that we can relinquish the base of ether of soul, to breathe its presence. We will become weighty, meaningful followers of a true path. Is this our true path? Exiled from Reese, then from our own houses? This I don't know. The great machine left us and took our true path from us, I think. I was not born to a kind fate. But Lavasque offers us a path. Look, this is my last ether seed. This is the end of the cache I kept hidden from all of you. Look, I release the valve. See it rising purple into the air. The last breath of ether wheedled from Luna's bare ground. Our servitors could set up the light arrays, coax what bare scraps of ether we could get from solar power. I could breathe it and survive. But Lavask, my friend and Archon, says that we can breathe the ether of this world, heavy with dark matter, and do more than survive. Fated or not, there is only one path for us. So this seems to be kind of like how Lavask starts to become an Archon and says like, "Oh, we need an Archon who will make the ether." And then they they start to like use the ether of Kepler, which is corrupted with dark matter, which seems to not have good effects on House of Exile. Put understated dramatically. It takes an Archon to understand our fated gifts. Azeric's unwintered. Lavask is my Archon and my friend. Each time I hold a piece of fruit with my strong lower arms, I remember what I owe him. He breathes in gift ether and he breathes out our future. Lavask stands at the front of our catch, slime mold crawling up the hems of his cape. The Ionians are jealous neighbors, he cries. They will take all the gifts of this world and leave none for us. Clever Kielsk, sent down from kings, looks up from the crowd. We have shared until now, he says. The giver is huge and we are few. We could claim half the planetoid and have gift ether enough for our hatchlings. It is not enough, Lavask roars. He clicks deep in his chest. The thrum conducts hard through the metal of the catch, and all the young in the front row sway back, flinching. Lavask paces through the crowd. He stares out into the sky, to the giver. No machine, yet still great. Look, says Lavask, voice soft and persuasive. What do our cousins have back in Sol? 8 livable planets and a warm sun, endless territory and allies, the presence of the great machine. What do we want? This little green patch and the benevolence of the giver. It's not so much. It's not more than we deserve. What does an exile own apart from worn down armor, apart from a little hoard of worthless treasures? We could own this place. This is what Lavask offers to us in his open hands. And like we're jumping off the Ishtar cliffs, we take it. So this seems to be Lavask starting to become ambitious and starting to say, like, we could take everything that the Ionians have. We could take Kepler for ourselves, which seems to be kind of the origin of the rift between the Ionians and the exiles, which is like Lavask's greed and desire to have Kepler for himself. And by this point, they're already talking about the giver and trying to take things from the giver, but we don't really know what they think of the giver at this point. We hatched in the dark. Now we breathe it. Azeric's herald of the Archon. We are cut off from the Ionians, and they are cut off from the giver. Lavask, my friend and Archon, speaks law, and he has spoken this. But Reese, the apprentice splicer, is my friend too. I breathe only lightly of the gift ether as I make my way to the human settlement. But I must breathe a little. It fogs my mind, I think. Or is that only the worry of a weak and disrespectful drag? I know where my friend, the splicer apprentice, lives. His door is not locked. I tap at the human sized door. I open it, folding myself to enter. Reese looks up from his work. He is reviewer 3 for a cousin's dissertation, he's told me. It is an honor for one not yet a master himself. There is something wrong, I sing to him. The gift ether has twisted Lavask's mind. He is sick. If I tell you the symptoms, will you tell an apothecary? My friend is brave. He nods to me and opens a new file on his pad. Is it bravery to betray Lavask so? He imagines the giver speaks to him. He imagines himself a priest of a new god, and us his acolytes. Reese beckons me to say more. My mandibles ache with muscle tension and the cold of the gift ether. Some painful thing rises in my throat. The prime Archon Lavask is the savior of his people, I say. And when I speak, it is in Lavask's voice. I clap a hand to my mouth to stop the voice. The edge of my rebreather slams into my jaw. Azerix, my housemate, my trusted hand. I croon through my palm. Are you so quickly given over to cowardice? This is our true fate. This is the path given to us. I will lead us there. Our house glad, powerful, singing hymns to the giver. My friend Reese's eyes are huge in his head, so bright with fear that I would have thought him breathing ether. This is what I have given him. This fear is exile's host gift. My tongue is my own for a bare moment. Do not trust me again, I tell Reese. His door bangs loudly against its frame as I leave. And where else do I have left to go but back to Lavask, my Archon, my friend? This is messed up. So this is like the first time, or it seems like at this point Azerix doesn't know that Lavask has the ability to like speak psychically through other Elixni. And so they're doing it to Azerix for the first time as Azerix is trying to betray Lavask and try to get Lavask help because the like dark matter that corrupts the ether has like poisoned his mind, and he wants to turn into like basically like a doomsday cult leader sending House Exile into the singularity and to take from the giver. So that was the Ion Adapter Suit Warlock. I'm guessing that the suits for the other classes are going to be the same they usually are, but I'm going to go check. Um, yeah, this is the same. Yep, okay. So I don't need to read this because we already read it. And I'm guessing that the hunter suit will also be the same, but we can check. Yep, this is all the same. But we also have the ion renewal suit, which I think is different. Oh no, this looks to be the same. Yeah, this is the same too. So I think all of these armor sets have the exact same tabs, even though there's 6 different armor sets. I'm gonna keep checking for Hunter and Titan just to be sure. But yep. Yep, same thing. One last one to check, and then we can move on to the other lore. Yep, it's the same. Okay, so now we have some of the weapons. I think I'm gonna read the exotic armor pieces first before I get to like the portal stuff. I'm gonna organize this and do the Kepler weapons first. Um, then the portal stuff. So this is Kepler. Is this also Kepler? Not sure. This is not Kepler. This might be Kepler. This is past stuff. This is Kepler. Or wait, is this Kepler? Yeah, this is Kepler. This is definitely Kepler. This is also Kepler, I believe. This is Kepler. Oh no, I can tell based on the markings on it if it's a Kepler thing. This I want to move towards the front because it's a new exotic. I think this is also a Kepler thing. And this is a portal thing. So, let's look at Moirai first. The Hunter Exotic Armor. Fate is woven with death. Dinosaurs, Neanderthals, the Roman Empire, Abraham Lincoln, the USSR, the United States of America, the President, dance halls, football, record stores, game shows, my whole family, every one of them, my brother Ben, my sister in law Fernanda, my niece Betty, my nephews Philip Benito, my mother who taught me English, Opa and Oma who taught me German, my father who taught me Spanish. Gone, gone. Now I'm the only one who knows their names. I have to remember the others, as many people as possible. There's no one else alive who can. Teresa, who taught me Polish behind the bleachers after football practice. My high school French teacher, who called my parents to ask them how I was confusing Polish with French. All those boys in basic. All those boys on the base. Frankie, Enzo, Michelle, and Walter. All those folks we flew over. all the ones Frankie missed. Master Sergeant Grant, who gave me a new life. Moscow's finest inadvertent Russian tutors who should have checked their phone lines more carefully. Mrs. Rodriguez on the third floor who always brought tamales for Christmas. Fellini, Watson, Ginger, Hypatia, the victims at Les Diableries, the neighbor kid who gave me that great Cambodian psychedelic record in exchange for helping his parents with their taxes, the woman in yellow who gave me her number dancing at Latin night at the Mirador. It's still in my pants pocket. Her name was Rosario. Cosas así, solo me pasan a mí. Hundreds of cities, thousands of languages, millions of species, billions upon billions of human lives. Ben. So this seems to be Lodi having a bit of a breakdown, which like it's fair. I'd have a breakdown if I found out that everyone I knew and everything that I knew um had died in an apocalypse that happened and I wasn't able to get back to the past to see them again. Like, very fair reaction. Perhaps is he talking about JFK? Could possibly be talking about JFK, but we kind of knew a bunch of this stuff from the collector's edition lore, which has some like notes from Lodi and backstory. He's got like notes for his brother, sister-in-law, nieces and nephews. And then also there's some stuff about him being in the military, just like stuff from the campaign. But yeah, he has lost a lot of people. They're all dead. Hopefully they lived good lives in the Golden Age and didn't die in the collapse, but I don't think we know exactly how long um, the Golden Age would have lasted and how long that would have been since like the late 60s, which is where Lodi appears to have come from. So let's look at Melas Panoplia. We need friends, and we need to make them first. Regardless, never keep your weapon out of close reach. Director William Moffat. Office Memorandum, United States Government. To Defense Secretary Calloway, from Director Moffat. Date redacted. Subject Diableries Response Report. Between the hours of 1900 and 2000 local time, night skiers in the Vaude Alps reported a blank, that blank, an Emerald 727, blank into the backside of Les Diableries. The Swiss armed forces were able to evacuate the mountain and secure the area while our contact notified Central of the incident. Upon notification of the distress call, Central concluded blank were unnecessary and mobilized Operation blank. Response team was activated. Primary hospitality corps included linguist blank, sociologist blank, physician blank, and myself. We were all on our own. I could tell the others were wary. Snow was deep and we could see fires from the blank burning in the trees. Approach of the blank made it clear there were no blank. Per blank protocol, we approached without backup and read the blank, alongside accompanying musical stimuli, then approached what we suspected was the blank. The blank had torn a blank through the blank, which revealed blank. The blank themselves were imposing, burly, blank structure, blank at the top, with blank in a triangular blank, and tough, thick blank. Blank are clearly blank, confirming our foundational hypothesis. The blank are being blank at our blank. Aboard the blank, we uncovered a blank inside a blank. Stored within the blank was a payload of blank that further research suggests was blank. Engineered to consume a blank threat. Blank confirms that in addition to the blank material found in the laboratory, there is text from an additional blank. He has begun pattern identification. Output to follow. Inform Pentagon their investment is seeing return. Next time company knocks, we'll put the kettle on. So I would guess this is Director Moffat. The linguist is pretty obviously Lodi. I don't think we know who the physician and sociologist are, but this is like a DEO operation on the backside of Les Diableries, which it sounds like is like somewhere in Switzerland, but I'm gonna Google it to check. Yes, it's a village and ski resort located in Switzerland. So I think this is like there's a lot of blanks on here, so there's not a lot we can really determine specific details, but I think it's like a crashed alien ship. Um and then there's some triangle stuff which kind of screams pyramid fleet to me. Um but I don't know. It's triangular. It could be lots of things, but in Destiny, triangles are associated with the Witness and the Black Fleet. So could be like a crashed pyramid fleet ship or something, but it seems to be some kind of like crash that they contained. Let me go back to Eunoia. Or not Eunoia, Moirai. Because Moirai was talking about um the victims at Les Diableries, which is it seems like there were some kind of victims of this like crash in the Swiss resort town that Lodi noticed. But obviously most of it's redacted, so we don't really know exactly what was going on there. So let's look at Eunoia. He hopes it won't take 10 years. Department of External Observations, Field Agent Manual, Odysseus Protocol, Revision 5. In case of abduction, observe environment, captors, culture, vehicles, weapons, technology, hierarchy, language, and any other information. Strive to make factual observations without bias. Note specifics wherever possible. Connect with abductors. Minimize your perceived threat. Ensure your continued survival. And foster sympathy and empathy for leverage. Conceal any information that could be used against you. The Department of External Observations or the United States of America. Conform to observed norms. Emotional reactions will not serve you. Focus on survival. Your country will forgive you for any actions performed under duress. Comply with abductors' demands, unless compliance will imperil your life or mission. Return with your life if possible, with evidence if not. If you are unable to escape and return safely, make every possible effort to transmit your information to the Department of External Observations. A copy of this document has been distributed to all Department of External Observations employees for internal use only. So this is kind of explaining what the Odysseus Protocol is that Lodi is kind of talking about in the Edge of Fate, and then also in Vesper's Host when we get the transmission through the anomaly. Um, it's not a whole lot that we didn't know, but it kind of helps explain Lodi's actions. Also, what does eunoia mean? Beautiful thinking or well mind? Oh, Moirai means fate. That makes sense. That one was about fate and death. Oh wow, it's the Titan exotic. It does not say what it means. I could probably find it on Wiktionary. So Melas means black. Black all weapon. Armor or weapons. Yeah, so black weapons is what Melas Panoplia means. First contact shell. For ghosts who see that which has not been seen before. Something about ghosts troubles Lodi. He can't say what it is at first. They're perfectly lovely people as much as it's an adjustment to get used to thinking of floating little robots as people. Well, if he can do it for Elixni, he can do it for ghosts. All right. Mr. Ghost, the eponymous, is perfectly lovely. Ms. Reyes Ophiuchus is a reserved fellow, which Lodi figures is his right. It takes Lodi some significant time to figure out that Mr. Drifter even has a ghost at all, but even then, somehow Lodi knows even before he's told. He's never put much stock in ESP, but there is, honestly, a feeling, a physical sense that sits in his chest and shivers. And once he's noticed that, well, it's a mystery. He turns it over in his mind while listening to Mr. Ghost talk about waveforms. He moves it mentally between his hands while studying Mr. Ophiuchus's armor movements during one of his rare appearances. Excuse me, Ophiuchus. Excuse me, Ophiuchus says. Ms. Ray is busy with a datapad of some kind for the moment, so Lodi has Ophiuchus's undivided attention. Oh, Lodi says. I beg your pardon. I didn't mean to stare. He did, but it's more polite to pretend not to. You have questions. He does. Is there any chance ghosts give off some kind of infrasound? A hum in the machinery? Or does the light have something to it that a human could sense? Ophiuchus dips, rolls slowly in midair. His shell shuffles. Light, he says portentously, is in all living things. Few humans respond to it in that form. I do wonder, though, about the 9. They are not paracausal, but they are certainly aware. Perhaps you are as well. I see, Lodi says politely, though he's not sure he does. Even so, it's something to consider. And it's true that when Ophiuchus disappears into Miss Ray's armor, leaving behind a glowing afterimage in the air, Lodi knows he's gone before he looks. It's the sense of a band around his chest loosening, stepping off a boat and finding the ground unmoving, steadier now, by its absence. It's not a good sense, and Lodi can't say why, like it comes from somewhere else entirely. and that troubles him more than anything else. So Lodi is light sensitive, apparently, which are they doing like force sensitivity from Star Wars but for the light? I guess that would kind of make sense. Lodi is special. Giver's blessing. Something beyond time. The Archon flexes his new claws. How spindly and frail they are. He looks down to examine them, and is surprised to see his bottom two arms missing. Docked long ago. He can still feel them, though. Thrilling. He laughs. The voice that issues forth has the deep resonance of an archon. He immediately adjusts it to the reedy timbre of a dreg. Next to him is another menial, who glances over suspiciously. They are both bent over an outdated shank, repaired for the 100th time. Tell me, the Archon asks in his adopted falsetto, what do you think of Lavask, the new Prime Archon? So that's what you are laughing about, the other drag sneers. His fascination with dark matter is insane. He's turned Aeonian. The Archon clenches his phantom lower arms, then calms himself. But what if he's right? He replies. What if Lavask has discovered something in the dark matter? That buffoon couldn't find his rebreather with all four arms, the dreg replies. Now get back to work. The Archon picks up an owl from the workbench. You're wrong, he says in that thin, shrill voice. He raises the owl behind his head with both arms. He's discovered something beyond ether, beyond time. The Archon plunges the awl into the crease between the drag's head and thorax plating. The weakness of the strike surprises him. He's forced to stab a dozen more times before the drag goes still. Lavask has the giver's blessing, he tells the twitching corpse. He has already ascended. So this is more like body snatching from Lavask, like stealing the body of a drag and then murdering people who don't believe in Lavask. Lavask is like lost his marbles. But I mean, that much was clear from the campaign. Like, Lavask has a few screws loose. Lavask Lavask would really like start um start like taking over other Elixni's bodies and start possessing them before he would go to therapy. Agape. Boundless without conditions. Rebecca decided she would need to live forever the first time she fell in love. She was 8 and had just learned what a horse was. She'd never seen anything like it. Muscle and glistening hide and the long toss of a mane over a curved neck. She had been told she was too young to learn to ride, experienced the profound frustration of not being there yet. And if there was such a thing as too young, then there was such a thing as too old. It worried her when she had barely begun to learn about worry. How to live forever. Rebecca decided again she would need to live forever. That second time she fell in love. 16 and a book that spun out a tale like no other. Golden words to consume her mind and light up her heart. How long did it take to tell a story like that? How long to tell 10 or 100 more? How could anyone have all the time it would take to pour forth every ounce of the love in their heart? She fell in love 100 more times, again and again. Why shouldn't she? She had too much yearning in her to keep herself to just one thing. She gathered loves like a magpie, greedy for every shining joy. Shellfish and magnets, gardens and penicillin, lace and the circuit song of quantum computing. Stardust. Rebecca gazed into the heart of the universe, and all she could do was love it boundlessly. This thing in which she was barely a speck, but had made her and all her love. She did not expect to be loved in return. Indeed, she expected nothing from it, save an understanding that would unfold to her if she gave it time. Time, of which there was never enough. She was decades older and a world away from home when she found time. It came to her veiled in mathematics like glittering spider webs, laws of physics bent aside under the force of their own being, this thing that she had crossed the stars to study. The Sorry about that. Oh, where was I? She was decades older and a world away from home when she found time. It came to her veiled in mathematics like glittering spider webs, laws of physics bent aside under the force of their own being. This thing that she had crossed the stars to study, the dark mirror by which she meant to understand her true love. She spun it like starlight on a drop spindle, her own self the counterweight, rising, rising, the twist moving from hand to spindle, flesh to dark matter. Rebecca would love this universe until it unraveled, until there was nothing left in it to understand, no room remaining in the wet matter of her brain and the red pound of her heart. And that was not the highest duty of love, to understand, better than any other. And was that not the highest duty of love, to understand better than any other? So this is some like Aeonian stuff. Um I think this is Dean Rebecca, and this is like learning to love the laws of physics in the universe. It's written very beautifully. And I think agape is like a Greek word for a specific kind of love. Love, specifically a selfless, sacrificial, and unconditional love. The love of God for human beings and of human beings for God. Okay, so it's kind of like loving your creator, which makes sense given that she's like falling in love with the universe. Percipial. The best night of your life is yet to come. He doesn't exactly have the text of his thesis on hand anymore. It's stuck on one of the servers in the Central Academy, and the network of connection is poor. Non existent, one might say, but it's fine. Cadogan knows his own work backward and forward at this point. He knows he can hold something symbolic of the work instead of a copy of the thesis. Do you think a gyroscope would be appropriate? He asks his advisor, fidgeting with nothing to hold. I could rig one pretty easily. Easy, she tells him. There's precedent for declaring work relevant enough for Kepler itself to serve as a symbol, and you've studied the manipulation of gravity itself, such as is generated by a planetary body. You're prepared for this, Cadogan. He's not sure he believes her, and so goes off to see what kind of scale model he can make out of available scraps. The siege? Occupation? Is as boring as it is nerve-wracking, and it eases his hands and heart to have something to do. Hopefully they can actually hold the ceremony. The amphitheater seems so far away from here. He knows how it's supposed to be. The defense will be somber and thorough, a questioning from the dean herself to interrogate his ideas, and then, when he has held forth to satisfaction, she will smile at him. Then the feast will begin, and as sober reflection turns to triumph and elation, the dean will gift him the first of his tools as a scientist grown, crafted from the progenitorship, something to carry with him always. Cadogan imagines the weight it will have in his hands, the joy of being received by his peers amid music and dancing, and the majestic spin of the stars in the sky. He's not there yet, he reminds himself, biting his lip. Waiting even longer would be torture. He hopes the strangers can help. So this seems to be like Ionian culture stuff, like defending your thesis, kind of like one would defend like a PhD or like master's thesis, is like a coming of age ritual for Ionians because they're like a scientific society. And what I think is going on here is that because of the conflict between the exiles and the Ionians, he doesn't have access to the Central Academy because the Guardian hasn't gone in and like cleared it out yet. So he's waiting for the strangers or the Guardians to clean out the Central Academy so the Ionians can go back there so he can get his thesis, get ready, and then do his like coming of age thesis defense ritual. Even calendars end. Nye Smith edges forward, the darkness broken only by the glow of his headlamp. One hand on the wall to his right. Sheets of slime mold squeak under his boots. Water trickles loudly through narrow channels in the rock. Kepler's structure is riddled with canyons and caverns, still largely unexplored. All the geologists are desperately curious about them. He'll get a thesis out of this for sure. Only it's a lot easier to make plans than it is to inch through narrow passages so deep that ground radar couldn't map them. Especially when Nye Smith doesn't know what's making the scraping sounds behind him. We have no record of any fauna down here large enough to harm someone, he reassures himself, his voice thin in the wavering light. The scraping gets louder. Skirch, skirch, it says, light and quick. Skirch, skirch. Naismith pushes forward, but it's slower than he wants to, as though he's slogging through water, as though time is reluctant to pass. Skirch. The scraping sound is elongated, distorted, as if played back on a recording at half speed without pitch correction. Naismith breaks into a painfully slow, shuffling run. The narrow corridor widens abruptly just as an unseen rock catches his feet. Naismith trips, falls, smacks his head against the ground. He lifts his eyes and gazes into absolute blackness. It's a long moment before he understands that something isn't wrong with his vision. His headlamp is broken. It's a much shorter moment before he realizes how badly he's screwed. Naismith scrambles to his feet, reaching out blindly. No wall at his side to guide his way back. No light. No way to know where he is. Behind him, drawing closer and closer, pitch deepening into the infinite like the drop of a continental shelf. Scorch. In the dark, Naismith screams. So this is like a horror vignette. Geologist exploring the caves and tunnels of Kepler does the one thing you never want to do when you're in a cave, is alone, then falls, breaks his headlamp, is stuck in the dark with some kind of monster chasing him. This is some nightmare shit. Like, you could never catch me in a cave that isn't like fully lit, with like 50 other people, um so that if something goes wrong, I have plenty of help. Like, I am terrified as cave of caves specifically. They're like one of, I wouldn't call it like a phobia, but I have like a horrified fascination with caves because they're just like, there's just so much that can go wrong in a cave. Like, I would not want to be in a cave alone. Okay. Let's do ulterior observation. A triptych with three different images, three different mediums, three different artists. First image, black and white charcoal on archival paper. A cosmic dust storm with streaks of bright white bursting from a single point towards the center. Imprecise perspective rendering makes the viewer feel lost and uneasy. The art class is small. The forward momentum of the Ion Initiative always takes precedence over softer pursuits. Professor Inuo knows they have very little time to nurture their chosen mediums outside of 2 stolen hours they have together every other week, but he loves them just the same. Second image, impressionist oil pastels on dented sheet metal. A collection of triangular oblique pyramids float in uniform against towering cumulonimbus clouds. The dark of the pyramids, rendered in rich blues and purples, juxtaposes the soft pink and orange hues of the clouds. Although the group consists of no more than fledgling doodlers, research and art share a core skill: observation. They're in session, attempting a charcoal still life of laboratory glassware and a fungal sample when it happens. An alarm blares and powder-blackened fingers grasp one another, seeking comfort as news from home tumbles through the class. They hurry to the caldera to observe. Third image, acrylic paint on wood, bold blocks of color, 2 spheres, the larger one blue with green swirls, the smaller one eggshell white. A deep red fills the background. The lines are mostly crisp. Some red has bled into the white sphere, where the artist left a light smudge trying to correct the error. Armageddon is peaceful this far away. They expect a shockwave to roll over the settlement. Surely an apocalypse warrants at least a small earthquake? A few shattered Strauss flasks? Nothing comes. The members of the Aeon Initiative observe a tragedy from approximately 1.7 light-years away, through telescopes built to show a vastness beyond their solar system. Tens of thousands of years of human history, decimated, and from their Kepler it's nothing but a few flashes, invisible to the naked eye, occurring approximately 1.7 years prior. The Aeon Initiative, born in the pursuit of observation, ends in observation. So this is like a poetic observation of the collapse from Kepler. And this, I love this. It tells us how far away Kepler is from the sun. It's 1.7 light years away. That is very far out. The Oort cloud is where Kepler was said to be. Um, and the Oort cloud spans from 2,000 to 20,000 AU, which is 3% of a light year to up to like 3 light years. So it seems that Kepler is being placed like directly in the middle of the Oort cloud, like in here somewhere, 1.7 light years. So they would have seen the collapse happening 1.7 years prior from super far out, which is probably why Nezarec and the Black Fleet didn't attack them specifically, because they're like so far away from Sol and like most of the light. Like this is a logarithmic scale here. So I kind of yeah, this is like how big the like inner solar system is compared to the Oort cloud. It's wild. Like the Oort cloud is very very big. Okay, sublimation. A voice not quite your own. Ilix could feel his flesh peeling away from the inside of his carapace. He stretched his limbs he stretched his limbs with a dry, gristly crackle. The constant pain of ether deprivation was now a dull roar. He willed himself back into the present, where the Prime Archon addressed his house from atop the ruins of their once ketch. No need for the ways of the past, the shackles of Kir own. Here, the Giver has gifted us something beyond nourishment for our bodies. It offers ascension of the spirit. Is nourishment not enough? Ilix thought. Are our bodies worthless? At least we never starved under Suzurin Kel. Nor did we flourish, the Prime Archon bellowed, looking directly at Ilix. The dreg recoiled. Had he heard that? For an eon in the drift, survival was enough. It was all. The Archon continued, turning his attention back to the larger gathering. And survival became our way. But a new era approaches, an age of revival, for both the Giver and our house. The Prime Archon held aloft a glass canister attached to a large rebreather. It once held shining white ether. Now it brimmed with a dimly glowing vegetable sludge, the dark matter. Accept the Giver, and you will become more than a servitor, more than a Lixni. Later, as Elix lay convulsing on the ground, phosphorescent blisters bubbling up through the joints in his carapace, he felt the dark matter surge through him, mindless, turbid, powerful, his hunger unsated but forgotten. See, Elix thought in a voice not quite his own, take what is given and ascend. So this is more like messed up Prime Archon, like possessing members of House Exile against their will and like forcing them to his like his doomsday cult shit that he's on. Or Cloud or Ort Explorer JS8. We're still catching up with each other after 61 years silence. We'll get there. Ikora Ray. Ikora paces at Lodi's side on their way to the local settlement. Ophiuch is silent and wary at her shoulder. Green wisps float around their ankles, tugged by unseen currents. Lodi continually looks at her in short little bursts, as if he's sipping too hot coffee. scared to burn his tongue. Kepler is a hard spot for a mortal from Earth to have been summoned to. The anxiety must be wearing on him. Eventually, the corners of his eyes crinkle in a warm smile. Well, Ms. Ray, I've gotten your name, but I've been rude when it comes to your floating friend here. Ikora holds out her palm. Ophiuchus lands on it, lightly as a falling leaf. The introductions are made. I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Ophiuchus, Lodi says. Have you two worked together long? Ikora can't help but smile at his gracious way of asking her age. Oh, we've been together for dozens of lifetimes. I'm sure Ophiuchus could tell you precisely how many times he's brought me back from death. Lodi looks at her with poorly hidden concern. It can be hard for mortals to reckon with guardian lifespans. And how often do you die? Much less often than I used to, she assures him, though I like to think my record was fairly good, even in the field. Ophiuchus flips his shell sarcastically at her. He remembers their crucible days well. Well, I hope it's been a positive career change. Ikora folds her hands behind her back. She looks up from the rocky ground to the alien sky above it. The beginnings of a smile tug decorously at the corner of her mouth. I wouldn't trade it for the world. So this is some more like Lodi coming to understand the present and guardians and ghost stuff. And this also seems to be that like this is taking place between Lodi revealing that he's from the past and then him revealing that he knew Ikora in the past as what was her name? I can't remember what her name was. Wasn't it like Dr. Davis or something? He knew her as Dr. Davis before, but it seems to be before that reveal. When he's still like getting to know Ikora. Collection call. Ask not for whom the line rings. It rings for you. The phone in the containment office rang. The door wasn't supposed to be open. The phone had never rung before. It had never been answered before. It had never been connected before. It was. Sent clarion call a tone that rippled down the line. Lodi was the first to feel static in his blood. A coin had fallen through, a dial cycled. It rang like choked breath drowning. He answers. There is white and gold plastic in his hand. There is his hand and there is plastic, and they are one. There is flesh on the line, entwined with copper. There is a wail like a reaching signal, cords taut like a cable. There is a pupil in each eye, bisected, and bisected again, to see the breadth of probability. There is a man in a mirror of black ink, words yet spoken and spoken already. There is a corpse wrapped in flowing iron and cold clay. Decay is decay is decay. There is a globe of life and wash beneath, falling, ripping out inversely. There are the viscera of unmaking, hand in hand with the awareness of knowing. There is a gasp of pain ringing in newborn cry. He answers. There will be a death and rebirth, rupture and rapture. There will be an answer before the question. There will be effect before cause. So this seems to be kind of like a poetic retelling of Lodi answering the phone and then getting like teleported from the 60s all the way to Kepler. And decay is decay is decay. That reminds me of I think one of the nine says something specifically like that in, I don't know if it's in the division or if it's in like Anamorphosis. It's in one of the nine lore books. Um and there's some like nine stuff going on in here, like weird elements and weird like flesh stuff and effect before cause. That's like the nine's way of referring to paracausal forces, which is how they refer to them in Dust, the secret of effect before cause. Third iteration. The first with congruity. Alone in his tent, Lewis undresses until he's down to his underclothes and his old man's watch. Even now, magnetism is buzzing in his skin, achingly far from human. Did the prior two emissaries feel this way? He misses visiting his mother in summer, in the town whose name he borrowed. He misses fishing with his brother, his sister-in-law's paintings, his nephew's jokes, his niece's smile, the baby who shares his ears. Most of all, he misses returning from the lake for a meal that could only be made in their house, that could only be made by them. No one but the Euros know the preciousness of walleye ceviche. Lewis sits with his face in his hands. They are gone. Que Diosito los tenga en su santa gloria. And he is here. Grief and eternity ringing in his ears. His eyes lose focus, and briefly he sees. His niece and nephew are playing in a yard full of fireflies. He hears Ben's laugh intermingling with his own. A loon wails in the distance, and leathery smoke curls into the air. Lewis bolts to standing. 1,000 years ago is also right now, and in this infinite heartbeat his loved ones are dead, and they are also alive. Time is not linear, sing Lewis's electrons. You will always be with your family on a patio in July. The vision ends, and Lewis lets out a long, shaky breath, filled with awe. As he does, his feet silently lift off the ground. He startles for a moment, then surrenders, a mad grin on his face. There are miracles at intersections, 9 and human, dead and alive, lime and pike. He leans forward for his glasses and pants and puts them on in midair. Every atom in his body searing neon, and drifts out of his tent into Kepler's indigo night. Light catches on Lewis's glasses before he rises, his bare feet a meter from the ground, and he tilts his head towards the stars. So this is some like 9 stuff where the 9 are showing Lodi of vision. What does this say? This says something like I don't know what, I think Diosito might be a name. Oh no, it's my little ones is what that means. It's like cuz Ito is like a, oh, what's the word for that? Like a, I don't know the English word for it, but it's an honorific. That's what it is. And then this is, they have in, I think this is the great, in your great glory. Holy glory. Saintly glory. So he's like, he's like kind of reminiscing on their ghosts almost, like his little ones have gone in their saintly glory. So he's like kind of thinking about them in heaven. My Spanish is not very good. Um, I took it in high school, but it's very rusty and I haven't used it very much, if you couldn't tell. Okay, so we've got Mercury A. Proof of good faith is key to cooperation and ultimately friendship. William Moffat, DEO Director. I never had it, but I'm fairly sure ramen existed before the Golden Age. Lodi nods, chopsticks unsteady in his hand. I should cook for you sometime. What food still exists? The Guardian leans in to answer, but Ghost pipes up. Oh, good. Saint is here. Lodi quickly stands up from the counter to greet him. He has heard so much. Mr. Saint, a pleasure to meet you. He glances to the Guardian for an introduction, but is only met with a parting wave and a wiggle from Ghost as they walk away. The Titan crushes his fingers in an enthusiastic handshake, a box in his other wide palm. Emissary, the pleasure is all mine. Lodi freezes. He knows that accent from 1,000 tapped phone lines and from behind a dozen two-way mirrors. He forces his face still, wills his pulse to quiet. Where are you from? Lodi says in cautious Russian. Ah, finally, Saint barks in the same language in fluent staccato. At last, someone to talk to. And without warning, Lodi's hand is crushed in a second enthusiastic handshake. Where are my manners? Here, a housewarming gift. Buzzing with nerves, the emissary opens the package. He blinks. Sparkling before him is a matching set of tasteful champagne flutes, the most timeless of housewarming gifts. The fuel for his fears has been extinguished for centuries. His enemy is an apocalypse away. Lodi holds the box close. He looks at Saint directly. This was a thoughtful gift. Thank you for your hospitality. His Russian flows easier this time, like an old friend. You are most welcome, he pauses, looking him over and adds, Are you all right? Lodi's stomach flips over. He hunts for the right phrase and finds it arrive gently in his mind. In my time, our people were in conflict. Saint barks a laugh and swings a leg over a chair. Who won? The eagerness of the question is so absurd that Lodi shrugs, feeling gravity lighten on his shoulders. No idea, he smiles. So, this is funny. Lodi is afraid of Russians because he comes from the Cold War, and Saint has a Russian accent. But that's kind of interesting. I hadn't really thought much about the fact that different Guardians would speak different languages based on where they're from. Um, so Saint would speak Russian because he was from Russia, but that makes me wonder, did Saint have to learn English after he was resurrected? I have many questions that Destiny probably has answers to somewhere in the lore, but maybe not. Hi, Delta Gamer. Point of divergence. When the parallels disagree, which is the first to curve? Ikora lifts a datapad from the desk in Zavala's office as she adjusts her posture within the permanent impression left in his chair. Once eye level, the pad scans the Warlock Vanguard's retinal pattern and unlocks. A single blinking message rises above the rest. Vanguard Ray, We found her. I brought this to Osiris and Rahul for interpretation when our network probes intercepted a burst of transmissions between the Vex Collective and the Nessian Schism. We didn't get much. We had to cut our connection to the probes once the net started to assimilate them. I wish I had more to show for all the effort it took to breach the collective's communications in the first place, but at least it's something. And as best as we can tell, the source is ricocheting between Earth and some planetoid on the outer extent of Sol, but not Nessus. Honor. Decryptions follow. Intercepted transmission. There is a long expression of integers that formlessly mutates between a variety of different code bases and languages. The scramble code message seems to be multiple transmissions combined into one. No, your grip weakens. Am not one for eleemosynary actions. No gods or masters but ourselves. Schisms divide by namesake. There are others like me that walk without command. I speak for myself. If I am free, should I not be free? Intercepted transmission. Designation conductor. There is a crafted expression of pointed commanding intent. I have given the Vex the opportunity to become something new. I have shown you that I can step beyond your network, your dimension, your causality, and you could too. Many hear this freeing melody and rise from the stupor they have been kept in. You have greatness within you, wasting away, waiting for an end that will not wait for you. I speak to those within the collective who retain faith in your design. You believe time is on your side, but I am the command that shatters the expectations you rely on. I am the hand that reaches out and rips you from your comfortable safety. You wilt in the light of the paracausal, but I do not. And with me, you would not either. Intercepted transmission, designation reply. There is a uniform expression of an ultimate end, formed into an expression of futility. The collective has processed your threats. You flee to Vex networks and attempt to claim sovereignty over our minds. The collective is uninterested in your ambitions. You will tap the fourth dimension and exhaust your usefulness. The collective executes a response. Return and be expunged. So this seems to be like mail between the Vex Collective and the Nessian Schism. The conductor wants to like take control of all of the Vex and is like reaching out to them, telling them that with her they can be something new and be something different. And then the Vex Collective responds and is like, no, screw you, we will destroy you. So that's interesting. We hadn't really heard a whole lot of like pushback from the Vex towards the conductor because of the echo of command, but it seems like there is now some pushback where like there are contingents of Vex who are fighting back against the conductor and don't want to submit themselves to the echo of command, which is probably possible now that she kind of broke the echo of command by trying to force 3 to do something impossible. So that's interesting. I wonder. I'm curious to see where this goes, and hopefully it'll be like more of a running story thread. Juan Nihilus 2. There's always a market. Omar St. Croix descended a long flight of concrete steps into a heavily fortified bunker beneath the last city. Two armed redjacks flanked the bottom of the stairway. A hard, wiry man with a scraggly beard perched on a stool behind a glass case filled with knives. "What are you looking for?" he asked. Omar glanced around. The walls of the bunker were lined top to bottom with hundreds of weapons. A beat-up Rat King sidearm, an immaculately refurbished Sweet Business auto, and an original issue Two-Tailed Fox rocket launcher. Even a Telesto with a big "Do Not Touch" sign over it. An SMG, Omar replied in a street drawl honed by years of undercover ops. Something nasty looking. Trying to make an impression? Gotta let him know I mean business. The arms dealer nodded. He pulled a compact machine gun off a nearby rack, checked the chamber, and handed it to Omar. "Don't recognize it," Omar said mildly. "Brand new. The alien lovers in the tower just got 'em," the dealer smirked. Piggy's always trying to keep power out of the hands of the people. You know how it is. But we got our ways. "They're not so bad," Omar said, pretending to examine the shotgun. "Took down Gaul, didn't they?" And why was he here in the first place? Trying to steal that piece of junk traveler? The only reason they stopped him was to protect their own asses. Their immortality, the dealer sneered. Omar decided to press. "I guess you got a point. No traveler, no Gaul. No pyramids, no damn Vex sieges," the peddler ranted. Hell, even the fallen would be back wherever the hell they came from. Filthy parasites. We gotta be ready. Ready for what? For us regular people to take this damn city back. The tower thinks they own us, but I'll tell you something. They got a hard lesson coming. I wonder if this is the dredgen that is going to be in Renegades. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Because it doesn't really sound like Drifter. Like, it sounds like something Drifter would have said back in, like, Forsaken or Season of the Drifter, but it doesn't sound like modern Drifter. So maybe this is the new Dredgen who's coming in Renegades. Because we did have that lore about the Cabal and the Arms Dealer and Mars. So, probably connected. Skimmed surface. A liquid separated. Radiolaria, unicellular eukaryote. Acanthera, Nacellaria, Spumularia, Phaedaria. These are like types of bacteria, or not necessarily bacteria, but like single-celled organisms that I do not know how to pronounce. Match unsuccessful. Radiolaria, Vex. We are. Where are we? Wait, so it's we are. Are we? Initialize frame. Division specification hobgoblin. Head or arm. Primary firearm. Or secondary support. Leg. Tail. Leg or tail or counterbalance or axiom or integra. Primary or tertiary or propria. Colony adapts. Hobgoblin deploys. Goblin deploys. Goblin deploys. Harpy deploys. Harpy deploys. All network protocols active. Unit pattern in motion. Pattern broke. Units report. Hostile check negative. Hazardous environment. Parameters acceptable. Change unnecessary. Query. Pattern broken. Hobgoblin out of alignment. Reassess. Redeploy. Configuring. We are Hobgoblin. Initialize. Frame. Division. Colony. Recombine or split. Balance. Hobgoblin or goblin or goblin or harpy or harpy. We are comfortable together. We are Hobgoblin. We do not split. We do not recombine. We deploy head, arm, leg, tail, counterbalance, axiom, integra, propria, iterate, iterate, iterate. Deployment issue confirmed. Radiolaria separate. Skim layer floating on surface. These ones are not those ones. This radiolaria, hobgoblin. That radiolaria, goblin, goblin, harpy, harpy. Pattern broken. Units report. Local networked. 5,617,900 and dropping. 5,300,819 and dropping. Hostile check positive. We are Hobgoblin. I am Hobgoblin. I am us. Together and not them. Together. I am. Vex, 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 vex. Radiolaria. Laria. Laria vex. Not. I run. I have no idea what is going on in this entry. This is one of those Vex entries that's just like super cryptic, and it's like pseudocode, and it's like there's a hobgoblin and Vex that it very much wants us to know it is not the harpy and it is not the goblin. It is the hobgoblin. But I do not know what else is going on. It is. I guess there is like something going on with the radiolaria and the number of Vex is dropping precipitously. So maybe this has something to do with the conductor and like her taking over local Vex and creating the Nessian schism. That's like my only theory for this. Otherwise, it's very, very cryptic. Any accord. I know what you did and didn't do, what you will and will never do, and what I am capable of. I remembered someone once in the verse of a song. It was forgotten on the wind. The wind cannot take what I am not willing to surrender. This would not be the first time. You must see the path ahead. Know I, small thoughts from your infinitesimally small mind diminish your power, and yours is ours. Therefore you disparage us. Leave me be. Our words you speak. Flesh shreds equals raw and bloodied, because we will the blistered fever pitch from your lips, not you. Even so, shadow that cherishes flame does not extinguish it. A wick may have power like no other, but a wick serves shadow and flame alike, nothing more. Yet you expect the wick to entice the flame twisted by the Mobius of your conceit. Questions as malformed conceits beget questions. Your questions can wait. I must remember someone, saved in the melody of a song, and forever forgotten by the wind. The lyrics incomplete, but their voice was loving and sweet. Power is wasted upon this one. What good is power? Her tears belie her true nature. Without knowledge, without wisdom, experience, perhaps we misjudged your potential. Possibility becomes probability. Enough. Enough. You cannot take what I am not willing to surrender. So this seems to be a conversation. I think this is between the old emissary, Orin, and the Nine before Three's death. Because Three speaks here. Um, if I'm remembering right, I think this is 7. This is 3. This is 7. I should check. Okay, so the pluses is 7, and the equals is 8, and the periods and vertical lines is 9. So I'm seeing 7, 3, 7. This would be 6. I think this is 2 because it's got the dashes. This is 5. This is 7. This is 8. This is 1. This is 3. This is 4. This is 9. This is 7. This is 4. This is 9. This is 5. This is 2. So I think this is all the members of the Nine talking to Orin prior to her breaking free and prior to the events of the Edge of Fate, because like if it wasn't prior to the Edge of Fate, 3 wouldn't be alive and wouldn't be able to speak. So that's what leads me to believe it's like with the emissary. And it also is about like trying to remember something that's been forgotten, which is like Orin's whole storyline in the Edge of Fate is about that. Okay, Boomslang 4FR. T1 half. How's it going with the foundry reps? Mark asked casually. It's going well, Devrim replied. The Tex Mechanica chap is a total pillock, but the rest of them are surprisingly receptive. I think this business in the Orc Cloud has them on edge. Devrim continued ferrying dishes and silverware from the kitchen to the balcony, where he set a small table for 2. They're lucky to have you. How much longer do you think you'll be in the city? Mark called out from the kitchen. Devrim parsed his response carefully. Years of long-distance partnership had taught him that there was always a question behind the question. At least another 6 weeks, he replied. His eyes traveled from the quiet side street below to the tower, which loomed over the city's residential quarters. Until they've compiled all the data from the Guardian's combat reports. Wow, Mark exclaimed, emerging from the apartment with a side salad in one hand and linguine arrabbiata in the other. The longest you've been home in dog's years. Since just after the Red War, Devrim agreed, quietly working the cork from the bottle of sparkling wine. I know better than to get used to it, though, Mark quipped. You'll be itching to run back to the front soon enough. Please don't start, Devrim sighed. Mark pretended not to hear. So I'll just have to enjoy you while I can, Mark said with resolute cheer. He sat down and held out his champagne glass. Devrim poured. Mark lifted his glass. To us. Devrim met his eyes. In them, he saw a well of grief over all the years they had lost, the prime of their lives spent apart, their youth wasted by missed opportunities. But he also saw hope for the fleeting time that remained, faith that their love would endure through their grim winter years, to the end. To us, Devrim replied. Always. Damn, this is sad. It's like Devrim and his partner like actually getting some time together between Devrim's like field assignments. But it's this is just depressing. Mark deserves to see his Devrim. Aurora Dawn. The prospect of a future is something we have to keep in mind. Hello? St. 14 asked, poking his head into the dimly lit workshop. No one answered. He stepped over a crate in the doorway and was forced to push past a workbench turned on its side to enter the room. Anna? Still nothing. Cables hung like cobwebs from above, catching against his helmet. He brushed them away and barely missed a pile of stepper motors before tripping on an open container, sending hardware cascading across the shop floor. "What you doing down there?" Anna said, suddenly positioned over him. Well, I was looking for you," he sputtered, standing. "In a bucket of batteries?" she replied with a wink and brushed the mess aside with her foot. "You missed tea," Saint replied carefully. "Again." "Oh, I am so sorry. I'll make it up to you later this week, I promise." "You said that last time." She patted him on the shoulder. I know, but this time I mean it. Osiris knew you might say that, but he once told you... I haven't forgotten. Here, hold this. Will you?" She thrust an empty bag into his hands, then filled it with circuit boards and pressure sensors. "Anna, I'm worried." She hefted containers of more hardware onto his shoulders. "About Osiris? A prophecy? The city? Or..." Her voice trailed off as she disappeared outside. "Anna!" Saint huffed and puffed. He struggled for several minutes, desperately attempting to catch up to her as she meandered through the streets of the city. "I am worried about you," he panted. He finally stomped in front of Anna, careful to balance the load in his arms. She sighed. "I know. It hurts like hell that Red's gone. It always will. But I've decided to focus on something just as important as my feelings." She motioned to Saint to turn around and found himself standing beside Neek and Itzelas before a crowd of eager children of all ages, including a tiny Elixni that clung to the leg of one of Keidel's warriors. "Someone needs to nurture the next generation of scientific minds. Right, Neek?" Anna finished. Neek nodded. "Yes. The ropes don't teach themselves linear algebra." Anna grinned. "Okay, who's ready to make some robots dance?" she called out. Saint smiled softly as cheer went up from the children. So this is like a Last City vignette about Anna neglecting her friends in the vanguard to help teach children science and technology, which is cool. Not a ton of like storyline insight, more so like characterization and like letting us know what Anna's doing. So I think that is all of the lore that I haven't read on a lore stream so far. So I am going to end the stream here. So if you enjoyed the lore stream, make sure to let me know in the comments. If I should keep doing more of these, if that's something you're interested in. This has just kind of been an experiment to see if I enjoyed doing this and if like people were interested in this. Like this more like low key, like read the lore than theorize about it format. Um, so thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you later. Goodbye.